So I am 28 years old right now. I live alone in an upper half of a duplex for a little over $1,000 a month. I don't have a car payment. I don't have a wife, a girlfriend. I don't have kids. And I have pretty much fully embraced owning nothing, basically, right? So even in this place that I'm living in right now, none of the furniture is mine. It came furnished, so I guess that's one blessing that I got. But I have pretty much embraced the whole concept of owning nothing. So you probably heard that phrase like, you will own nothing and be happy. And in my case, I've kind of, in a weird way, almost like embraced it in a sense. And there's almost like somewhat of a peace feeling that I get from it, which I'll try to explain to the best of my ability in this video. And real quick, if this is the first time that you're seeing me, this channel is all about navigating the modern life as a young American right now. So if you are a young person right now, you're trying to, you're entering the workforce, you're trying to make it through life, you're trying to create a comfortable lifestyle for yourself, then you might find some comfort in these videos. So let's talk about why I've embraced this to, the best that I can, right? So the first thing I want to talk about is, the cost of living, right? So it's becoming a lot harder for the average American to move out of their parents' place and get their own, live on their own. And even that in itself is kind of a blessing because more and more people that I've been seeing, that are around my age, some even older than me, are still living with their parents, which is kind of it's kind of sad to think about. And so for that reason, less people are getting married, less people are having kids, less people are starting families. More people are kind of just staying to themselves. And you even see this like even at like jobs that I've had, and even myself, I've been a victim of this as well, where like when I'm at work, when I'm around people, oftentimes I'm very almost like isolated to myself, where I don't really feel like talking too much to people. And I kind of prefer just having my earbuds in, just listening to music or listening to a really good podcast. And I kind of just do my own thing. I collect a paycheck and then I go home and then I just work some more. And I, work on other additional income streams to escape the rat race altogether, right? So that I have done previously for a bit. And so that was kind of one experience that I had. But just in general, I don't really go out that much. I don't really have too many like friends that I socialize with. Every now and then I will meet up with family, because I come from a fairly large family. And so every now and then when there's a holiday or when there's some like big event, then, we'll all have like a get together. But even those moments are becoming more rare because everyone else in my family is also working 24/7. They're all working 40 hours a week. Many of them are living on their own and they moved like 2 cities away where they're like a 2-hour drive or something like that. And then on top of working 40 hours a week, they also are starting, to start their own families. And so that makes it harder to kind of keep everyone together. You also factor in the fact that in America, everything's spread apart. So compared to other countries in the world where everything is more like walking distance from each other, you have more like walkable cities. In America, I believe what makes it very hard to socialize with people is the fact that you are always, you're very isolated. The environment that you're in is kind of designed to isolate you from your peers. And so that is kind of one thing that I kind of miss about living at home was you kind of have people to, socialize with to an extent. However, I do really enjoy being by myself and just, being in silence kind of. It's kind of one thing that I find kind of therapeutic in a way. So, why is it that I have embraced owning nothing? Well, for one, with cost of living, I've kind of almost like given up on the whole idea of like owning my own house. And as it pertains to having my own vehicle, well, that it's in itself is already already very expensive as well. So I've even had Uber drivers, Lyft drivers tell me that, that I'm probably better off just paying for rides whenever I really need a ride, because it is cheaper than actually owning a vehicle nowadays, because you also have to factor in, price of gas, you gotta, pay the monthly fee. And then if you get in a car accident, then that's a whole other headache you gotta worry about. And then if your car breaks down, which can happen often if you don't have like if you get like an older pre-owned vehicle, that can happen as well. And then the other thing that I keep hearing about recently is like more newer vehicles have their own issues as well, where you can't even like start them up on your own because of, they all have like a tablet inside, and then it's like you got to update like system firmware, like what is like a computer or something like that. And then I've seen videos where people are trying to start their own car, but they literally can't because, even though they have the vehicle and they have the key and everything, they can't start the thing because they got to wait for this update to go through. So I'm seeing more people even kind of, fight back against like newer technology, and they're starting to embrace old cars more often. So kind of crazy to think about because it's also, these newer vehicles are just a big ripoff in my opinion. So I've kind of given up on that. And then as far as owning, owning like a house or whatever, then you still don't fully own it because if you want to pass it on to your kids, then they also going to have to pay, all these taxes with it as well. It's, really ridiculous. So one thing that I've found very annoying is when it comes to actually moving out and trying to get your own place, and what made it very difficult for me for many years was the fact that when you move out on your own and you apply to get like an apartment or something like that, you got to make like 3 times the rent of what it is. So let's say that you work a 40-hour week job and maybe you're getting like $1,500 to $2,000 a month. Maybe like working retail or something like that. Most of the apartments that are going to be around your area nowadays are anywhere from like $1,500 to $2,000 a month. In my case, I just happened to get a really good deal, so that's one thing that I'm very grateful for. And it was just kind of like right place, right time. But most people they get their own place. It doesn't come furnished. You gotta pay $1,500 a month at the very least. Then you gotta verify that you make $4,500 a month, which most jobs don't even pay that. So, and then on top of that, you also can't show that. Like for example, if you have like an online business, for example, and like let's say that you're doing really well with it, right? Maybe you're making like $5,000 a month with an online business, and you just have that. Well, you still can't move out and get your own place with just that because landlords don't see that as like stable income. So basically, what you have to have is you have to have a stable paying job. Plus, you're likely going to have some other side hustle with it to show that hey, I got consistent income coming in, but I also have enough where I could pay the monthly monthly bills. Then you got to have good credit. Then you got to furnish a place. So there's all these roadblocks that you got to worry about, and it's why I understand why a lot of people are kind of just opting out of the whole, opting out of society as a whole. So then the other thing is with with everything that's going on in America right now. Number one, I already mentioned cost of living, but you have all this division going on. You have all these roadblocks when it comes to getting married, getting married and having kids. That is, almost a luxury in itself. And as a result, I'm seeing more people kind of opting out of the whole idea of getting married and starting a family. And so what I'm also seeing more of is I'm seeing more people kind of buy into the whole digital nomad lifestyle where they move outside the US or they try to live off grid, and they do that while having online income. And I believe that just seems like the simplest path for most young Americans right now, because you just deal with less BS. You deal with less stress overall with trying to make it in this crazy society that we live in. And it is almost, I feel, the simplest way to live somewhat of a comfortable life today. So in my case, what I mainly do during my free time is I have my online business that I'm building. I also do content creation on YouTube and on this channel, and then I have one other channel that I post on as well, and I have residual income coming in that I'm building up, which is really nice, and that allows me to live comfortably on my own, right? Because if I just had my regular 9-to-5 job and nothing else, then it would be very tedious. I would have to like live off of cash advances and all that. But with online income as well, I have a lot more breathing room because of that. Now, am I making like 10K a month or anything like that? Not at all. In my case, it is something that is building up, and I have made more money before online than I have now. So it has kind of gone up and down depending on the amount of traffic that I'm getting. but it is something that I am building up, and that is something that that I feel very grateful for. So once I get myself to a point where I'm earning consistent income online and I feel comfortable enough, then what I will do is I will start traveling to other places outside the US. And I definitely intend on, if I ever do decide to get married and have kids and all that, I don't see myself doing it in the US at all, just because of the fact that, the way that I like to think of it is, by the time that my future son is around my age, right? Or even just like 18 years old, the cost of your average apartment is probably going to be like $10,000 a month or something. And wages are not going to keep up at all. They'll slightly go up a little bit, but they're going to have, the next generation of people is going to have so much less spending power compared to like, Gen Zers and like early Gen Alphas. Like they say that we have it bad, but I think that the next generation is going to have it much worse. And so for that reason, by owning less and being in a position where I don't have to worry about, taking all the stuff with me if I decide to move somewhere else, it makes it that much easier and that much more flexible for me to, quit my job and then, travel to another location without having to worry about moving all this stuff around, right? So if I want to move out of this place right now, all I need is just a couple $1,000, maybe like $5,000 a month online or something like that, or even 3,000. And then I can just easily pack up, close my laptop in one location, put everything that I have in a duffel bag right here, and then I could just hop on a plane and just, live somewhere that is much cheaper, right? So that is why I have pretty much embraced owning very little to nothing. And it's also, put me in a position where I just feel very less stressed overall. So I've kind of accepted that, this lifestyle that I'm currently living right now is probably as good as it's going to get for me in America. My life will not get better until I, am living in another place where the spending power is much higher, where there's less division, people get along much easier, and you just have a higher quality of life, higher quality food. You have, more flexibility. You're most likely in nicer weather. In my case, I'm in Wisconsin, so the weather can be, very up and down. Like in the span of 1 week, it can be like a really sunny day like how it is now, but then like tomorrow it could be raining, and then, during the winter, then it gets super crazy. Like you can have like a total blizzard one day, and then the next day super sunny out, and then it's all slushy on the ground and stuff like that. It's really nasty. So having location freedom, I believe, is the best thing that young Americans should strive for right now. If you are single, if you're a single guy and you're trying to, live somewhat independently at the very least, the best thing that you could do is work your 40-hour week job if you have that, do the best you can, but during your free time, spend your time wisely. Focus on ways that you can make money online. Focus on building a nest for yourself where you're not fully reliant on that 9-to-5 job in the event that it goes away or gets taken over by AI, which I hope that doesn't happen, but you never know with how things are nowadays. These corporations, they could just let you go for any reason, and you just have to position yourself in a way where you are not getting screwed over as badly as most people. So that is the message I wanted to share in this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Give us a thumbs up and take care. All the best.